Hello everybody, it has been a little bit since I put up a new video answering your questions. And actually over the last few weeks I've taken a lot of emails, especially mostly via YouTube. What's spline? That's a great question. Well, in our industry there's several styles of spline, from foam to rubber to what we call hard spline. Now, I will tell you, the rubber spline that you're going to find at the big box stores are difficult, to say the least, to work with. They tend to whip around, spin around, and even sometimes whack you upside your head because of the way it's designed. Most dealers, and I can only speak for myself and about 5 that I know well, we purposely only use hard spline. So what is hard spline? Well, it's just that. It's hard, it's stiff. So as we roll this in the channel for our solar screen or insect screen, as we stick it down in this channel, it doesn't tend to roll on itself, spin, or anything else. In fact, it stays very flat and easy to work with, and that does make that a lot easier. Now, in those questions I get is, what size spline shall I use? Honestly, 115 hard spline, in my opinion, should always be used for 80%, 90%, 95% solar screen. Pet screen, 70%. Sunscreen should use either a 125 or 135 hard spline. And then finally, if you're doing insect screen, so basically you're doing fiberglass, I'm going to urge you strongly to use foam spline. This particular one that we love to use is a 150 foam spline. Much like the hard spline, it will not corkscrew or spin as you're placing it inside your tracks. So by far, this is our favorite to use for our bug screens or insect screens. Pet screens as well, you could use this for. Of course, you can use 135 for pet screen. You can also use 135 hard for bug screen, but it may try to pull out. It may, and I realize not everywhere in our country can you get foam spline. So if you're not able to get it, 135 would be fine. Just try not to hit it with anything for a little while, because our hard spline, and this one here in my hand is the 115, because we go through hundreds of rolls of this a week doing our solar. One thing I always notice, and I realize this is kind of my own description of it, the longer this is in the frame and in the sun and in the heat, it will literally melt and stick. And I mean, we're talking a jackhammer to pull this out of that spline line in a couple of weeks. And so when you're doing a bug screen and you have no choice but to use a hard spline, 135 preferably, keep that in mind, that give it a week or two out in the heat, it won't come undone. I love it. Now, the frame is also very important. Of course, we always use 1 inch for solar, 3/4 for bug. Unless, of course, we're asked by a customer or a different dealer to use one or the other for the opposite. But what I love is we also use high-grade aluminum. Made in America, you know us for that. That is all we want, is made in America, and that's why we don't use, well, I won't use their name anymore, but there's a reason we don't use one of those screen dealers over there, because they decided to import a lot of their product from China. They want nothing to do with it. So we use high grade, and one thing I love about high grade is they're very consistent. It's always a true 1 inch width, 3/4. Now we purposely only use the 5/16 in thickness. Being in the Houston area, 99% of our windows are that thickness. I realize there's 2 other alternatives, 3/8 and 7/16. We don't carry it, don't stock it, don't want it, don't use it. But there are areas, especially along the north, where those thicker frames are more popular based on the way those window manufacturers created it. But again, I love it because they're very consistent, especially with that spline channel. So we can almost always guarantee that 115 is perfect. Foam spline 150, perfect. And it's going to hold your screens together, and it's going to give it a nice, clean, beautiful look. I have never been able to figure out where the spline comes from. Likely it's imported, but I like to believe, and I'm crossing my fingers, that it's actually a made in America product. Our supplier buys it off a secondary market. It's where we get a lot of our smaller parts and pieces, corners, pull tabs, springs, things like that. It's a secondary supplier that we use outside of Twitchell and outside of High Grade. And they didn't even have an answer when we had asked them the other day, hey, where is that roll formed at, or where is this material made? But either way, I think that's okay. So again, spline, that's the easy part of it. It's beautiful. And before any of you give me fits of wearing this shirt, I'm doing it for my dad. He's a graduate, and I love it. So I hope I was able to answer each and every one of those questions that everyone was sending over the last few weeks. And I'm sorry it took so long to create a video specific to spline. And as always, just comment on this video if you have any other questions, something I didn't touch. Maybe you have a better idea or an alternative. I would love to hear those, as I'm always interested in how to be more productive, cost-cutting, but still have a quality, beautiful product that you'll be proud to have on your home for life. And hey, while you're here, like us, subscribe to us, give me a thumbs up. I don't like the thumbs downs, but hey, if I earned a thumb down, just go ahead and do it. So I wish each and every one of you a blessed rest of the year, and keep sending me your questions.